Ever studied for hours and still ended up with a 5? Or done absolutely nothing and somehow scored a 9? Yeah, that's not just bad luck. That's something deeper. Let's talk about grades and whether they actually measure how smart you are, or if they're just numbers in a system that wasn't designed for your brain.
I used to think grades were everything. Like, if you got straight A's, you were officially smart. And if you didn't, you were just average or worse. But now I'm not so sure, because I know people who bomb tests but build robots, or write music, or explain things better than most teachers I've had.
Exactly. The problem is this: we treat grades like they're a mirror for intelligence, but they're not. They're a mirror for how well you play the school game. Think about it. What do grades usually measure? Memory, speed, knowing how to answer the right way. They don't measure your ability to invent something, solve a real problem, or explain a concept in your own words.
So, what do they measure then? Like, if they're not intelligence, what are they?
Grades measure performance in a very specific context. You followed the instructions, you filled in the blanks, you remembered what was on slide 14 of the PowerPoint. That's not bad, it's just incomplete. It's like measuring how healthy someone is based only on their weight. You're getting one data point, not the full picture.
But school is supposed to measure how smart you are, right? Like, that's the whole point.
You'd think. But most schools were designed for efficiency, not intelligence. They needed a system to sort, rank, and push people through. And grades were the easiest tool for that. Not the most accurate, just the easiest.
So, what is intelligence then? If it's not grades, not test scores, what are we talking about?
Great question. Because here's the truth. There isn't just one kind of intelligence. Some people think in numbers, others in pictures. Some people pick up languages fast. Others notice tiny details, or can calm down a room with 2 words. Howard Gardner, he's a psychologist. He talked about multiple intelligences: logical, verbal, musical, visual, social, self-awareness, body coordination, nature smart. But school mostly rewards 2: logic and language. Everything else gets left behind.
That explains so much. Like, I'm good with people, I pick up patterns quickly, and I can build a mood in a room. But math? Total war. And yet, only the math gets graded.
Right. You could be emotionally brilliant. You could be a future inventor, artist, or leader, and still barely pass chemistry. And here's the messed up part. The system might make you believe that means you're not smart, when actually, it just means you think differently.
Okay, but what about IQ? Isn't that supposed to be the real measure?
IQ tests are useful, but only in a narrow sense. They test how well you spot patterns, solve puzzles, use vocabulary. They don't measure creativity, or grit, or emotional intelligence, or how well you work under pressure. And most importantly, they don't measure potential, because potential grows.
So why do grades matter so much then? Like, why are they everything to schools, parents, colleges?
Because they're easy to collect, easy to rank, easy to print on a report card. They're the system's shortcut. But easy doesn't mean fair, or complete, or even accurate.
So people can miss out on opportunities, not because they're not smart, but because they didn't test well?
Yep, happens all the time. But here's the part no one says out loud. A grade is not a future prediction. It's feedback on how well you adapted to this assignment, this teacher, or this week. It doesn't define you. It describes a moment. And even then, imperfectly.
That actually makes me feel better, because sometimes I'll bomb a test and think, that's it, I'm not good enough. But hearing this, it's like, maybe I just need better context, not a different brain.
Yep. And when you start seeing grades as feedback, not identity, you can start using them instead of fearing them. You ask yourself, what worked? What didn't? What do I want to do differently next time? That's how actual growth happens. Not by chasing tens, but by building self-awareness.
So if I'm not my grades, and if intelligence is bigger than numbers, how do I figure out what kind of smart I am?
You experiment. You try stuff. You notice what lights you up. You pay attention to when time disappears, like when you're writing, building, solving, leading, teaching, or imagining. That's your zone. That's your signal. And it might never be on a report card, but it's real intelligence.
I kind of wish someone had told me this sooner. But also, I'm glad I get to hear it now. Because it changes everything.
Yeah, once you stop measuring your worth by numbers, the whole game shifts. School becomes a system you learn to use, not something that defines you. And honestly, that's when you start getting way smarter than the grade ever said you were.
So, web weavers, what's one thing you're good at that school never sees? Drop it in the comments, because your kind of smart deserves to be recognized.
And if this hit home, like really hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your little cousin, your stressed out classmate, your past self. We're all smarter than we've been told.
Catch you in the next one, web weavers. Bye-bye.